So, hey, there we go. Can you guys hear me now? I think I was muted. Let me know. Give me the thumbs up if you guys can hear me. That's all I wanted to know. And we can get right into this. What's going on, guys? Very happy to be here today. It's spring is here. It's coming. Nobody tell him. What do you mean, Blake? Nobody tell me. Oh my God. Good. I don't have anything to show you guys. You know what? I was on Trick or Treat Studios, and I did buy a whole bunch of those 1/6 Halloween figures under their last chance section. And they were going for like $100. So I bought the ones that were all cheap. I guess that was 4, 5, Resurrection, H2O in 2018. So I got all of them, but I'm not going to show you guys because they've been around for years. And some of the new figures out there are going for like 160 and close to 200. I'm going to wait till they become last chance. I mean, it's just ridiculous how much these figures are going for. And with what's coming up, I don't know if any of you have gotten the email from Trick or Treat. If you actually go through them, they actually gave us a email that tells us that they're going to be raising their prices and how sorry they are. Well, bullshit on you, Trick or Treat. Bullshit. Your figure, costs about $10 to make, and you're charging, nearly 500% of that back to us, and then you're going to start charging us an extra, $143 of that. Come on. I know it's business, but Jesus, we're all hurting. We're still waiting for the price of eggs to come down. It's going to be very difficult. And if this continues during Christmas, might be difficult for the rest of us. Halloween might be difficult, for the rest of us. I mean, it is what it is. What can we do? Let's take a moment of silence for that. I'm going to say hello to everybody right here. Matthew's here. Chester. Nick. What's going on, Nick? Duke is here. Blake is here. Hey, Blake. John. Keep going. Lord Kev. All right, guys. So I thought, we did the 80s of the best and the worst kind of Rotten Tomatoes, why the scores are so high or they should be 100%, and why some of the movies and scores are so low. So we rolled right into the 90s right now. We did the 90s, and I think a lot of us on the last episode last week, we kind of agreed about where some of the movies were at. They were in the 80s and sometimes high 90s, but yet some of us thought that Silence of the Lambs was too high. It should not be 100%. And then a lot of us did think it should be 100%. But I think out of every movie, that was the one that caused the most, I don't want to say argument, but most debate. That movie was about a 50-50 split between us in the chat, if I'm not mistaken, because a lot of us do think it's a 100% movie, and a lot of us thought it was kind of too high at 95%. And then when we got to 7 became a movie for the critics that was reviewed as a copy of Silence of the Lambs. So we were just like, well, if that's the case, it should be in the high 90s as well. And I think it was in the 80s. So we'll see if anything it will come of this one, because there are some dingers in here that I do not agree with, but yet there's some hey, that's what she said, that there's some that I kind of understand why these movies are so low, but I do like a lot of them, and I think there's a lot here the majority of them that are under 50%. And again, as you know, with the criteria for me, anything 50%, you know, if it's a movie that we all like that comes out to like 51, I'll put it in. You know, not too many of them, but anything between 70 and 50, we kind of figured it was a decent movie anyway. Hi, Byron. What's going on, buddy? So, if you guys are ready, let's begin. Um, let's see, get you guys in and out because I know everyone's busy and they got stuff to do. All right, here we go. We got 16 slides now. Not like you know. I did it with one of the 80s. I did it like last time where I took the movies, bunched them together, put the Rotten Tomato scores underneath them, and as the day I put this together, these were the correct scores. If it changes by a percentage or two, it really doesn't make a big deal. Um, but if I put the the top critics, what they said about these movies, it's going to take up a lot of time because there's about 40 movies here. And if I got everybody that gave a positive note about it, which is about one or two for each movie, we'd be here for a long time. And nobody wants to hear me go on about why a movie should be or shouldn't be rotten. So yeah. Blake, really quick, says, Frank, if Halloween didn't exist, what would be your favorite? What would your favorite horror movie be? Okay, Blake, for a series, I'm gonna go with Friday the 13th. Right. And I'm gonna go for the merch. I'm gonna go for Friday the 13th as well, because all this stuff behind me would most likely be, Jason's, and Pamela's. Matthew says, just rewatched Ends for the first time since it came out in physical digital. In my opinion, it's not a bad film, but still not what I would have wanted for a Halloween film, especially the ending of a trilogy. I think that is the consensus, Matthew. I think that's about 85% of us. We don't care that Michael died. We don't care that Laurie survived, though some of us would like to see them go down together with the ship. Or him. There was that funny. There was that funny instance where we were thinking that he could have gone up and grabbed her and pulled her down in the meat grinder, and everyone's just horrified. Or maybe Allison's trying to pull her up, and that would have been great. And then having Corey sit up. It would have been great. We could have added something on because Rowan Campbell was absolutely accepted by then. Was accepted by the Halloween fans. Uh, that's what I think should have happened. But they decided to end it, and like with all Blumhouse movies, unless it's going to be a moneymaker, not a moneymaker, but I think they want to make their own mark in horror by changing the narrative and not. They don't want to. They don't want to own the IP. They want to change it so you can forget about everything and just focus on them, which is going to be very hard for Halloween. You could do that. I think you can't do that with Freddy either. They tried it and it didn't work. And with Jason, you could. I think you could change the story around and nobody would care. Let's get to the kills. Let's get to, the intimacy. Let's get to, not even the story. Let's just get right to it. Michael's different. Freddy's different. Hellraiser is the same way. Hellraiser is just, we can do whatever you want with the with Pinhead and the symbiote, and it actually worked with the last one for most of us. But a lot of us hate change. For me, I kind of embrace it and go with the punches. But I think with Blumhouse, they have no problem rewriting history. It's almost like in the olden days, I mean, really olden days, where the conquerors would come into a village, town, or city, or country, excuse me, and wipe out every previous indication of a past history with that area they're conquering. This way, nobody can, think outside of what they're just thinking or what they're doing. So I think Blum is a little bit like that. If Blumhouse were ever to get Silence of the Lambs, they would make that a Clarice and Hannibal buddy cop movie. I could see Clarice going, "Doctor, eating our suspect," and then saying, "I was about to question him, Dr. Lecter," and Dr. Lecter going, "Well, Clarice, he's not going to be able to give much information because I've bitten out his tongue. Would you care for some?" That would be, what Blumhouse would do. If anyone's out there who knows anybody who can make movie trailers, make Silence of the Lambs a buddy cop movie like Lethal Weapon or Cops and Robertsons. All right. 20 of you guys here right now. Thank you very much for joining me. All are welcomed. Do these horror movies of the 90s deserve to be rotten on Rotten Tomatoes? That's right, Nick. Make it PG-13 too. They make Precious the bomb-sniffing dog. Okay, let's start. 1990. Let's see how many are here. So 1990, we have Leatherface, which is like the third movie of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, at 13%. We have Predator 2, the second one, of course, at 29%. And this one right here surprised me very much, and that's Graveyard Shift at 0%. Now, I think these are all quite low, especially Graveyard Shift, and yet Predator 2, as the most of us have agreed, there may be one or two of you that disagree with it, Predator 2 is actually the best sequel to the original Predator. And we have the original guy who played Predator. Kevin Hall? Kevin Hall? Something like that was his name. Hey, Dean, is back as the original Predator in his he's not the original Predator, but he was back as playing the Predator in his full attire again. So I don't get why it's at 29%. I could see why it could be maybe at 40. But let's start from the beginning, because the Predator, we can go on forever about that. But how do you guys feel about Leatherface? Leatherface at 13%. This was the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that I've seen, that I saw, because my parents would not have let me watch the original. And part 2 was non-existent in my household. But my dad rented this one for me. And all I remember is the sledgehammer coming at the camera into that girl's head, and hearing the camera and the sound go off. And I thought this was actually a decent movie when it came out. Now, what it is like now, and knowing about the cuts that it was made, because it was a little bit too graphic, I definitely would see this not being 13%. I think it may be a little bit further up to 20. Certainly a pretty decent Leatherface. Yeah. So Evil Alex says, I never seen Leatherface. Is that with Matthew McConaughey? No, that's Next Generation. That's Next Generation? Yeah. Matthew says, I bumped Texas Chainsaw Massacre at least to 20%, Predator to at least 60. Yeah. I mean, this is the problem, I think. I think there was one critic that I think from Time Magazine, or was it TV Guide? One of them said that they think Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, is better than Part 2. Now, I know Darren would probably agree with that because he can't take all the damn screaming. uh, Blake says, "Is that the one where he says I like liver and onions?" I don't remember, Blake. I don't remember. I think I that's the one where he pulls down his pants. Not doesn't pull down his pants, but he looks in his underwear and goes California because they were like silk or something like that. Uh, I think we're all agreed should be a little bit higher. Now, Predator 2. I saw a lot of your comments in here. Now, Dean Renner says Predator 2 is awesome. Chester says Predator 2 is awesome. The opening is good. I love the opening to Predator 2. All that with the war and chaos, and he's just scoping out everybody and see which fraction is easy to take out first, which one is the best kill, who's the biggest trophy, and then he sees Danny Glover as the ultimate prize because he's the ultimate warrior. Not WWE Ultimate Warrior or WWF at the time. My Chunky Jordy says, I love Predator 2. I've just inherited it from my brother as my old copy was stolen when I was moving along with loads of other physical media. Yeah, of other physical media. It's one of those that I won't give up. And it needs to be in a 4K, which I don't think they have one yet, but let's see here. What do you guys say? Hey, Dominic, what's going on? Hello from Illinois. I really liked Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Yep. And Janine says, I haven't seen any of these movies. Watch Predator 2 at least. I think you would like it. If you like the original Predator, you'll like this one. And Danny Glover's, always good to watch. Yeah, Leatherface is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to Graveyard Shift. And thank you, my Chunky Jordy, right now for moving us along because the Graveyard Shift, Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, should not be at 0%. It shouldn't be. I don't understand what everybody was thinking. I think some of the critics, again, with this one, just put a splatter up. I think there was one critic from what was it, like Stepping Out or TV Guide? They said it doesn't make any sense. The monster effect doesn't work. The movie makes you feel dirty and grimy. Well, no shit, you bastard, because they're in a hot cotton mill in Maine, of all places. Does Maine get really hot? Well, anyway, and it's a cavern underneath filled with a bat-like monster. So I don't understand. Blake, watch Graveyard Shift. I think you would like it. Dean says Predator 2 has a 4K and the 4K. Oh, Predator's set with the first 4 movies. Okay, so I don't know if I want to pick up all of them though. You know what? I may have to pick up all of them. I actually kind of like Predators. I think it's actually pretty good. Biggie says Graveyard Shift is really good. It is. Yeah, Chester. I thought Graveyard Shift was a good decent movie. I just don't get it. I don't know what they were thinking. I think there's people who, when they think about Stephen King, you have the Careys, you have the Shining people, you have those people who want that type of psychological horror that he's known for. And then you have people who like Maximum Overdrive, which I found boring, but I like Emilio Estevez in it. And then you have stuff in the middle. And I think Graveyard Shift should be in the middle. And as we go through these slides, you will see a lot of Stephen King on here. And I just don't know what happened to a lot of these people who have a certain criteria for him. Like, we have to be wowed by everything is right. I think whatever he puts out now, there's this new movie coming out with Tom Hiddleston, Loki, called The Life of Chuck. So I'll go see it because it's Stephen King. And I thought Doctor Sleep was good, and I thought for the length of it, it was good. Yeah, Jamie. Yep, right here. She says it right. Graveyard Shift has a 0. What? That's unfair. I don't. Yeah, I don't get it. Yep. And then Evil Alex says, I like both Predator 2 and Predators more than Prey, actually. You know what? There's a lot of people out there, Evil Alex, that actually think like you. They thought Prey was just nothing like a Predator movie should be. And then there's other people who liked it and said it was refreshing. I kind of like all Predator movies, and I may do a show about this. Where did franchises go wrong? I think that's the way to go. So I think we're all in disagreement here. These should all be up. I mean, Graveyard Shift especially should not be perfect. None of these movies are, of course, but Graveyard Shift should be at least in the 40s, I think. Definitely in the 40s, which is not bad. Which is not bad. You know, as I told my wife when she was going through college, she's I don't want to get into I don't want to get into college and schooling because it's just I have a very I have a very opinionated voice about the education system, but in reference to Rotten Tomato scores, I told my wife that people are striving in school to always do their best and to get the higher percentage and higher to grade, but then life is not about percentages. It's like somebody saying, "Well, your life was fulfilled about 70%." And you're like, "That's average." Who wants to be average? But then average is good. Average means is that you're getting through. Average means is that you're going through life, passing whatever life's obstacles are coming at you, you're doing fairly well at confronting them or beat them or running away from them because you're still alive. And then when my wife wanted to get a good grade, I just told her, take the fucking D. That just means you passed, but you did less than what most people can do. But life is about pass fail. Life isn't, percentages. And when somebody comes up to you and thinks your life is a percentage and you're, I guess, subjected to people believing you're a percentage and making you feel like a percentage, you're not real. So that's my little rant for today about percentages. So the only thing I could hope for my kids is that they actually go through life not being a percentage. So God forbid if their teacher or professor comes to them and says, your kid is below average. And I'm going to say, in your eyes, maybe, but in my eyes, they're 100%. And as long as they know how to wipe their ass, feed themselves, and hold down a job, and maybe, God willing, raise a family of their own and do it well, I'll be happy. And what else is there in life? Okay, moving on. I'm done with that. All right, let's go to the next one. Are we still in 1990? Yes, we are. We're still in 1990. Tales from the Dark Side, 46%. Hardware at 46%. And Child's Play 2 at 47. I actually shut up, Blake. I'm actually okay with these scores. Maybe Hardware a little bit higher. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, I actually, out of all the stories, because you had the cat came back, right? You had the gargoyle in love, right? With a human. And then you had, I'm not going in order, of course, the mummy one. Was there only 3 movies? Was there only 3? 3 stories in that? I'm trying to think, was there anything else? Mummy, the cat came back, and the gargoyle one with Ray Dong Chong and James Reambar. I think that's right. I think there's only just 3, right? Let me know if there's another one. But Evil Alex says, I hope you're talking about these. All good? You think these scores are okay? I can't remember Hardware I've seen, but it's been a long, long time. Child's Play 2, I think. I mean, but Evil Alex says here the scores are way too low. Do you think do you guys think they're okay? I think these are okay. I think they can go up maybe just a tad. Child's Play 2, I actually had fun with. I actually had fun with it. Ryan, says, I love Child's Play 2. And 2 is better than the Cult of Chucky. I give you that. And it's still Andy, right? It's still young Andy, still defenseless, and we get Kyle. We get a beloved character. Nick says, I really like Tales from the Dark Side show. Such a creepy ass theme as too. Yeah. But things are not all what they seem. Yeah. With everything was the colors were like introverted. What was black was white, and what was white was black, and they switched them, everything like that. It was kind of like the Hitchhiker from USA back in the 80s, early 90s, and then that slow guitar picking. Come on, guys, you can't do anything about that. Thanks, Evil Alex. Hardware is a cyberpunk horror movie about an unhinged robot. Blake says Kyle at the end of Child's Play 2 isn't talked about enough when it comes to Final Gals. She isn't. I had a little bit of a crush on her too, because I remember she was also on 90210 for a little stint. Child's Play 2 should have been higher. Not 47%. Yeah. See, I think these are all. They should go up just a tad, but they're at least, if these were in the 20s, I think we'd be grabbing torches and pitchforks and storming Rotten Tomatoes. Actually, we shouldn't be storming Rotten Tomatoes. We should be going after the critics. I think some of the critics who wrote this are probably dead by now. Because if you check their pictures on the critics section, they all look like, Stephen Hawkins. They're all like and dribbling and everything by now. There's one guy on there that looks like death warmed over. I think he's just been in that position for the rest of his life. In every photo, every picture he's taken, he's been like this, slanted over, and half of his body falling out of his chair. It's like he went through the Civil War and Reconstruction. Okay, are we still in 1990? I don't remember. So let's continue. There's 13 more of these slides. 1991. There's a few on here I agree with. Body parts, 42%. If you watched the Slaughter Lamb yesterday, physical media that we can't live without or would never sell. Body Parts was one of my movies that I will never get rid of. It is not talked about enough. I think I'm going to do another show, not another show, but another post or little clip about part 2 of movies that aren't talked about enough. And I think Body Parts is going to be one of them. A great type of Frankenstein-ish movie about a guy who loses his arm in an accident, played by Jeff Fahey, and he receives the arm of a serial killer. And throughout the whole movie, that arm does things that he doesn't want it to do, like slap his kid, strangle his wife. But then he also gets enhanced strength from it. So, hey, Pat, what's going on? Pat says he hasn't seen Hardware in ages. I got to go back and take a look at that one. So I think 42% for Body Parts is low. I think for me, it should be in the 50s somewhere because it's actually quite enjoyable. And again, Brad Dourif is in it. He receives the other guy's arm. on the opposite side, and he's learning how to paint, and people are buying his paintings because the arm is painting for him, depicting all the crimes that arm has committed with the other arm on the opposite side, and all his victims are being painted. I thought that was actually quite cool. And the other guy who was in a car accident lost his legs. He's got the legs of the serial killer as well. And the legs start, for example, as the guy was driving, pushes the gas at the red light, and he's trying to hit the brake to stop his car from moving, and his legs would not let him. So it's funny because it's one of the oldest cliches in horror is that body parts that you've received from an individual, just like eyes, or hands or something like that. This was quite advanced and scientific for a movie. They take a life on its own, and it's almost like the memory of that person is encapsulated within the blood and veins of these parts. So it's quite fascinating that if you receive something for somebody else, are you part of that person? Do you still have memories? Do you still have feelings? Are you still is some part of that organ or limb that you have taken, is that trying to meld inside you? And I've read scientific stories or interviews from people that received organs from donors and having weird dreams. I think that's actually quite fascinating. So yeah, I love body parts. Blake says, what if you get the killer's genitals? I don't know what the effect would be. It could go either way, couldn't it, Blake? Yeah, so you should be, I mean, you can look down and go, yeah, or, you can get one of these. Where is it? Or you can get one of these. Coming out like Will Ferrell's Step Brothers when he buys his own toilet paper. All right, stop that. Okay, Freddy's dead. The last Freddy movie in the franchise. 22%. I think that's too high. I really do. Sorry, Chris Stanley. I think it's way too high. I tried to defend this movie, and it was quite difficult. And we couldn't, if you remember that episode, we couldn't defend this movie. And JB Hart absolutely agrees and says, yep, Freddy's Dead is terrible. Fair score. And then Ryan says, agreed with Freddy's Dead. Yep. I think most of us are actually, I think most of us agree with Freddy's Dead. We shouldn't dwell on it. Child's Play 3. Now, I remember liking this movie when it first came out. Some of the kills were not Chucky-esque kills. I mean, one guy had a heart attack seeing Chucky, but his response was great. You got to be effing kidding me. But Sheldon in it was a complete ass. And then we have Spitz from Halloween 5. He was also in this one. Moving on to better things, aren't we there? You go from Michael Myers to surviving Child's Play 3. Ryan says Freddy should be at 5%. It's my Chucky Jordy says I can get a good laugh at Freddy's Dead, but it's a fair score. I think there's all moments, but there's a lot of breaking the fourth wall in Freddy's Dead. So I think this is okay. Hope I didn't mess anything up. I think this is a fair assessment right here. I think Freddy's Dead should not be higher than Child's Play 3. I think we're good with that. I think we're good with that. And then uh we have Popcorn, which if no one has seen Popcorn, it's a decent movie. It's about a cult leader who people think is still alive, with a group of kids opening up a rundown movie theater to showcase their projects, to showcase their movie ideas. Not showcase it, but to help with the films they want to produce and get out there. So they raise money enough to open up this movie theater. It's been kind of forgotten, and watch old movies to a audience and kind of 4D. So if there's electric shock, your seat would be electrocuted. If something was dying, you would smell stuff through the vent. Um, there's a big mosquito in it, a big fake mosquito. Um, so I think, but you might see this poster in a lot of backgrounds for people who do YouTube, because it's a terrific poster. It's a terrific poster. Um, if you haven't seen Popcorn, it's on YouTube. It's on Prime. You could probably find of them both, especially on YouTube for free, but not in decent quality. Uh, I like to use archive.org for a lot of stuff, because it is free and it's kind of like the Wikipedia for movies and media. But now people are buckling down on trying to censor all that stuff and take copyright rights and everything like that. Um, I think Popcorn should be a little higher. Freddy should be lower. Child's Play should be higher. Body Parts should be higher. So I think 3 out of 4 should be higher. That's what she said. Said Freddy was a Looney Tunes character by the time Freddy's Dead was released. I think he was more overboard. I think in part 5 he was more. Now, if anyone has watched this channel from the beginning, or even with me when we did the best and worst of the Dream Child with on Slaughter Lamb with Dave, I actually said I actually think it's the best. It's the second best movie in the franchise behind the first one, because of how sick Freddy is about going after a unborn child and using that power and using the Jacob to come back into this world, and then ultimately going having Jacob become him. So he wants to be reborn, but it just didn't work out the way that Steven wanted it to, the director. And he says he can't even watch it to this day, which was rushed. That movie was rushed. And you're right, Jamie. She says, if I remember right, I thought Popcorn was marketed badly. It was. It's not a bad movie. It really isn't. Evil Alex says, even Freddy's Dead is the worst Robert Freddy. It's still better than the remake for me. I think the consensus of all of us is that 99% of us think that Freddy's Dead is actually better than the remake. And that's not taken from Jackie Earl. That's actually saying about the script. So, all right, moving on. I think we're going on to 92. So 1992, we have Hellraiser 3 at 40%. We have Pet Cemetery at 21%. Sleepwalkers at 29%. Innocent Blood at 36%. And Dr. Giggles with the late Larry Drake at 23%. I kind of agree with Hellraiser 3 at 40%. I think it's decent. Hey, Denise, what's going on? I think it's a decent entry, but I don't think it's as good as 2, or definitely not as good as the original. This is the Pinhead show, when it's all Pinhead all the time. And some of the kills are okay. You get some symbiotes. So like CD Man, Cameraman, Laser Man, Tarantula Man. And Pet Cemetery 2. I've watched this recently, not too long ago, maybe about within the last month or so, and I find it really boring. I didn't like Edward Furlong in it. The only thing that saved this one was Clancy Brown, and the dog, of course, Zoe. Uh, Other than that, it was a horrible sequel. However, a lot of people are saying that the remake is worse than part two. It's kind of like a happy ending. That's right, Chester. Shall we begin? You enjoyed her. So did I. I should be still okay because I just saw the thing, I think, come up. Let me know if I'm okay. Um, Sleepwalkers. Darren and I talked about this on our show. Somebody suggested it. I'm sorry if I sorry if I forget your name. But I, it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable. You get away from the whole parental incest and everything like that. And I think Mick Garris, he directed this. I can enjoy this film. I don't think it's bad. I like the cat in it, Clovis, and 29% I think is a little too low. Innocent Blood should be a little higher, not by much. It has pacing issues for me, and it's not like a vampire movie. I think it's more. It should be. It's like more demon-esque, and the ending leaves you a little like, okay, we're just. It's not even a happy ending. And Dr. Giggles, I remember enjoying it as a kid. My mom took me to go see it, so I would have been 11. I would have been 11, and I thought it was actually funny for the time, especially putting around the blood pressure cuff around the neck and keep on, and also doing the stomach pump with all the ice cream. Ugh, empty calories. We got to take care of that. But something's more disturbing than hiding a kid inside your dead wife. That was actually disturbing. So let's see what you guys are saying about these movies. Jamie Hart says Innocent Blood deserves a way higher score. Evil Ox says the Hellraiser 3 church and club scene are great. Beach Dad says I like Sleepwalkers in a weird way. It was different. Evil Ox Clancy Brown is far the best part. Sleepwalkers could be higher too. But Ryan says I couldn't love Dr. Giggles. Evil says Sleepwalkers is fun. Ron Perlman cameo at the beginning, loving it. And laugh out loud. I like Hellraiser 3. It's decent, but 40%, I would keep it at where it is. Keep it at that. I think okay. Ryan says Innocent Blood should be at 40%. And also says Sleepwalkers awesome. Innocent Blood is a nice gangster vampire ghoul mix. So yeah, I think these I think besides Dr. Giggles and Pet Cemetery, part 2, I think Hellraiser and Sleepwalkers and Innocent Blood can be into the mid 40s. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to keep it, and I think Pet Cemetery part 2 should be a little lower, and Dr. Giggles I think is okay where it's at. All right. Let's continue. Are we still in 1992? Let's see. 1993. Jason Goes to Hell at 16%. Ghost in the Machine 10%. Leprechaun 35%, and Man's Best Friend at 21%. So Jason Goes to Hell. As you know, I think this movie is quite defendable. I don't think it should be at 16%. Now that if you think about it, this movie was supposed to be kind of its own. If you leave it as its own movie and you actually had Pamela recite from the Necronomicon, this movie makes a whole lot of sense now. It would be somewhere in the 30s, low 40s. But they didn't give you time, or they didn't give us enough reference to that. They just gave us the book and the knife. And that didn't make sense for a lot of us. I mean, we thought maybe it was going to be a continuation. No, but it's all part of its own timeline, so to speak. Considering if it was part of the Evil Dead universe, and we saw her in the beginning, like I said, reading from that book, Jason comes back, kills Pamela in the beginning, and then maybe his sister was there, and she runs away seeing all this, and he lives at Camp Crystal Lake for the rest of his life. Then, okay, you have a good Jason Goes to Hell movie if they explain it in the beginning, but they didn't do that. So I think it should be a little higher. I'm cheating a little bit because I said it should be higher for something which should have been, but for what it is at 16%, I think that's actually quite low. It's actually quite low. So then Ghost in the Machine. I remember this movie not too fondly. A serial killer or a killer gets inside a woman's computer after having an accident, an electronical storm, and it goes throughout the appliances, and they have to unplug everything to trap it. It didn't make any sense to me, and I don't think that anybody in it of any consequence was starring in it. So I'm going to keep it at 10%. Leprechaun, however, gave itself a pretty decent run as a franchise. Started going off in all different directions with different little people as actors, which gave them jobs. And Warwick Davis, I think, has now tried to separate himself from this movie. I think he's more embracing Star Wars and Willow as he gets older, which is his right. But I love Leprechaun. I thought Leprechaun was great. Darren and I will never do a best and worst of it, even though, he'll say he'll never watch one. I don't think he said he'd never watch one. I just think he doesn't have any desire to watch it. Is she Nick? Is she Nick? I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Whatever. Man's Best Friend with Lance Hendrickson. I think. Who else is in that? Rachel, Jennifer Jason Leigh, is she in it? Or is it one of the Fondas? Is it Bridget Fonda? I think Bridget Fonda's in it. I thought Man's Best Friend was actually quite good. Max, the genetically Tibetan Mastiff, because that's what he is. He's the Tibetan Mastiff. Having all these different instincts of different animals, be able to climb trees like a jaguar, able to dislocate his jaw like a python. He's supposed to be the ultimate protector. He's super smart. He can pull brake lines and give tools out to mechanics. Swallow that cat whole. I thought it was fun. So let's see what you guys are saying about these movies. Hey, Frankie D, what's going on? Evil Ox says Leprechaun's too low. Beach Dad says, yeah, Man's Best Friend should be higher. Ghost in the Machine gets only a 10%. Well, I liked it. Leprechaun should be at 50. Jason Goes to Hell should be at 20%. Matthew says, Jason Goes to Hell belongs where it's at. I like the concept, but I feel it was executed horribly. I'll say it does have a great kill in it. It does have one of the most ultimate kills in it. Evil Ox has never seen Ghost in the Machine. Hey, William, what's going on? It says the opening, Jason Goes to Hell, is decent. Without explanation, you gave Frank, the rest of the movie doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Even without, even with that, when I first saw this with that Necronomicon book, as I said before, it still doesn't make any sense. You saw it there. It was kind of like watching The Bride of Chucky, and they had everything from every movie as an Easter egg in evidence lockup in the beginning at the police station. They had a fake Jason hockey mask that it just looked like a regular white hockey mask. They had I think they had a butcher's knife, and I think they had uh Freddy's glove in evidence locker. And it's just don't try to be something different. But I understand making something different could be good, but not with a beloved franchise. So stop. Leprechaun from Matthew says is easily 50%. It's a fun franchise, even though it's bad. It's just the quips and just his comebacks are great. She plays Terry Monroe in Ghost in the Machine. Okay. All right, thank you. Let's see. Hey Vanderhoff, what's going on? Chester says, I know that only 2 movies, but not the others. Watch them. I mean, most movies are mostly free online. Apart from Leprechaun, which I can't stand, I like Jason. And JV says, I saw all these movies in the theater, of course. That's right, Matthew. Thank you. They also had a knockoff Myers mask. I thought it was the butcher knife, but thank you. I knew they had something from Halloween in here. Just stop it. So, Jason Goes to Hell. I'm going to leave at 16%. I can't leave it. I can't make it any higher for what it was. I mean, I'm going to thank William for that. The explanation wasn't there. If you leave it where it's at, is the movie that we saw on screen, on video. That's what we're going to get. 16%. Goes to the Machine, I'm going to leave at 10. In one eye, or actually seen in one eye and forgotten about. Leprechaun should be higher, and Man's Best Friend should be higher. Right? I don't even like that mask because it looks like a turd sliding through his eyes. It looks like an awful turd with kernels. And then Ronnie says, I don't understand how Leprechaun got so many sequels. Because it was easy to make, right, Ronnie? Because people like us want to see him, especially the one in space, especially the one with his magic flute, which I think spawned 2 sequels out of that. It's Taco Wednesday over on their channel. So go to take a look at that. Let's see. 60 became a Universal Monster 7. He battled Carrie. 8, he went on a Carnival cruise. He had no choice in Goes to Hell but do something wacky. Yeah. Jason Goes to Hell is a good movie, but it doesn't really fit in the Friday the 13th universe. Agree, Jamie. It should be Jason Goes to Hollywood. Wouldn't that be great? It's his own little hell. All right, moving on. God, we got to go through 10 of these. All right, 1994, the only movies that 1993 didn't have, was it 1993? Okay, then 1994. I thought I said 2 last time. Oh, well. 1994, Brain Scan at 13%. Leprechaun 2 at 6. That's 6. I actually quite like Leprechaun 2, considering. Actually, I think part 3 is better than 2. But let's talk about Brain Scan. Edward Furlong is becoming a name now. And because of Terminator 2. And he's getting all these acting gigs. And then he grew up to become Norman Reedus, basically. And so Brain Scan at 13%. Frank Langella was in it. If you guys don't remember, this is about a kid who gets into a video game. He becomes the killer, and he tries to cover it up and become innocent, and then it winds up within being its own video game universe anyway. So the game is the ultimate game, which you don't know is a game, and then becomes a game. Hey, what's going on, Maestro? So, however, I think the guy's called the Trickster. I think the Trickster, the guy who's in charge of the movie or the game. I remember him listening to Furlong's character's music and saying it was all crap. That he put Primus on. He started dancing on the bed. So I'm going to put Brain Scan a little higher. I'm going to put it into the 30s. But Leprechaun 2, 6%. And right here, thanks, Mega. Thanks, Maestro. Thank you. Let's just see. Matthew says, I find it funny that Leprechaun went to space before the Hood. No, he came back, right? I like both too low. Biggie says, what the hell? Only 6? Maestro says Brain Scan is great. I gotta revisit it again, Maestro. I gotta do it again. I like both, says Chester, way too low. Frankie D says, I think generally Rotten Tomatoes, its critics aren't big fans of horror and underrate all these movies, whether good or bad. I rate most between 10 to 20% higher than they would, in most cases higher, in some cases higher. Ryan says, I'm also not a huge... take care, Maestro. Thanks for just stopping in and say hello. Sometimes that's the only thing that matters. I'm also not a huge Leprechaun fan as well. My Chunky Joy says, never seen either film. After the first Leprechaun, I just wanted to squish him, so never watch another one. He's an annoying little shite. I think for a lot of people, I think I told Darren it hits too close to home. It's like, what are you even talking about? Jamie, I probably made out during Brand Scan because I can't remember nothing. The only 2 Leprechaun movies I liked were 1 and 2, but the rest of them I didn't like. And of course, Vanderhoff says, I agree. Most critics hate horror. Everything has to be new and avant-garde. Hopefully with this next generation of critics, they can actually grow beyond their self-indulged bullshit and actually look at the movie for what it is and saying, it's too much blood, too much gore. I can't take it. Posh. Like Barry Norman. All right. Moving on. 1996, right? Demon Knight. Criminally. I mean, are we at 1990? Are we at 1990? 1995, right? 1995. Thank you. 1995. Demon Knight criminally at 42%. Let's talk about this movie for a moment. The best Tales from the Crypt movie of all time. There's only been 2. This is one hell of a movie. I don't understand why it's so low. This easily should be in the 70s for me. I love Demon Knight. I love Billy Zane in it. You know, I like Billy Zane in a lot of movies, but I think out of Demon Knight, he's the best. You know, as the demon trying to get the key. You know, and this hold down, low down, go down, motherfucker. You know, fuck this cowboy shit. I think it's great. You know, Nick says, yeah, Demon Knight is pretty fun. And then Blake goes, great intro. What's wrong with it, people? 42%? Absolutely fun. Oh, unhinged. That's right, Evox. Unhinged Billy Zane is good. Jamie, Demon Knight is super fun. Deserves a better score. This is out of everything on this list. I was so pissed off at seeing this. So pissed off that it made me want to break out my Blu-ray and pop it in and give it a good salute and say, "Fuck them, fuck the critics." Everybody, look at you guys. We're all agreeing. Demon Knight is super fun. Even Williams says it's a fun time. Billy Zane is so good. Remember CCH Pounder? Is that a yes? No, that's me giving you the finger, asshole. Come on. Oh, my Chucky Jordy. Demon Knight should be at least 75%. Billy Zane is awesome, and the film is so fun. And then Elog said, Billy Zane would have been a great Lex Luthor, by the way. I think so. Yep. Okay, Candyman 2, Farewell to the Flesh, at 21%. I think that's actually okay. I think by the time the second movie came along, I think it's I think it tried to establish itself as a horror franchise, and for me, it just doesn't get there. Either though, I think it made Tony Todd's career. I don't think it's his best performance as being Candyman. I think his best performance is as Ben as the Night of the Living Dead remake. I think he's awesome in that. 21%. I'm going to leave it there. I think 21% is actually okay. Because there are some parts where it gets fucking boring. And then, last but not least, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Do you guys remember the original trailer for this movie? They had a big 666, and it said the origin of Michael Myers. If you remember that, give me a thumbs up. Yeah, and God bless him too, Beach Dad. That's right. Rest in peace, Tony Todd. Who looks poorly in the new Final Destination Bloodlines. It's gonna be sad watching that, and hopefully he doesn't have a. I don't want to say I hope he doesn't have a long cameo in it. I just don't want to see him look like that or anybody like that, because we've all been affected by somebody who's actually been through something like that, and it's not good. And it's just I don't want to remember him like that, so I want to remember him for Candyman and for Ben, and not think about that. So Nick says here, if Demon Knight didn't tank at the box office, Robert Zemeckis would have put Tales from the Crypt logo before the Death Becomes Her and What Lies Beneath flicks, he said. Really? So, Nick, he would have had Tales from the Crypt presents Death Becomes Her, and then Tales from the Crypt presents What Lies Beneath. That would have been okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. And then thank you guys for putting those thumbs up. Halloween 6 should have come with seizure warnings with all the flashing lights, especially in the beginning. Yeah. Michael, please don't hurt me. Jamie says, I'm not a fan of H6, although it's pretty entertaining to see Paul Rudd being so weird. Hey, Jordan, what's going on? It's okay. There's no demerits for tardiness. 8% though, I mean, depends on what you want to watch. This is 8% for the actual movie that came out, the theatrical cut. The producer's cut, I think, is a better movie, explains more, except for the whole Sam Hain part. But if you take the beginning of part 6, producer's cut, and then keep the ending of the theatrical cut, you actually have a decent movie. That's just me. That's me. And Evil Ox, yeah, I do love the operating room massacre scene as well. I think that's fantastic. I think where Michael is just walking around aimlessly. He's a tool of Wynn's cult, recognizing the power of Thorn and everything. And then he's, I think he just snaps out of it and he's just had enough, right? He's just like, hell with this. Grabs that medical machete and just goes to town on everybody. I think that and Evil Ox says I think A is a bit low. I think it is too. For some people, it should be more. It should be actually lower, maybe at a 0, but I think it should be higher. I think it should be maybe at a 25%. It's definitely in this category, it should be higher than Candyman, but lower than Demon Knight, which kind of is anyway. All right, let's continue. Village of the Damned, which Darren just did a review on his channel. Go watch it, Mr. Sandsman. He did it for the 4K that came out. 29%. Species is at 42%. And Vampire in Brooklyn is at 11%. So Village of the Damned, John Carpenter, I think, is actually a correct score. I only watched this movie like twice. And I kind of agree with the score. I think it's kind of boring besides Christopher Reeve doing his thing. Species at 42%. Let's be honest. The only reason why this movie is actually that high is because Natasha gets naked all the time in it. And Vampire in Brooklyn, John Landis, I think is just, I was bored to tears in this one. Bored to tears. Darren and I talked about this again, and it's. I think this is the last movie him and Eddie ever did together. They tried to make this a comedy horror, but there's two things Eddie Murphy can't do. He can't do horror, and he can't sing. Other than that, he's good at drama, and he's great at comedy. So Elog says all three are a bit too low, and Nick says he doesn't mind. Blake, my man. Loved Species as a kid. My mom took me to see this movie, and she looked at me anytime there was nudity, and this is all she got. I was a kid, I was at that time, I was into girls, being a boy, I was psychologically and your body changes, so, that's the only thing, ladies and gentlemen, when you have sons, and I don't know how it is with daughters, but if you have sons, I'm sure it's all equal in the same anatomy and psychology as growing up when the change of life happens. They're interested in that stuff. It's not going to stop. You're not going to stop that. Maybe nowadays it doesn't happen because the most kids that are growing up now are into, things that are on the screen and not interacting with anyone physical. So they get, mentally and physically attracted to things that they can't interact with personally and touch. So most of them get turned on by anime. So we need to stop this. And actually, to tell you the truth, there's a fear that I have for my sons that when they start to decide to date, I don't want them to get hurt in a way where they're going to have an arrest record for asking a simple question. So yeah, Species. I think it's okay. I mean, come on. Yeah, Beach Dad. She was so smoking hot. Don't care that she's an alien. That would kill me. I still would. Everyone. Amen, Blake. 42% should be higher. It should be higher for Species from 42 just because of Natasha. But as a story, keep it at 42. Village of the Damned, keep it at 29. And yes, you're right. So disappointed by Vampire in Brooklyn. Eddie Murphy was riding on a high in the 80s and early 90s, and they just killed it. This is just Didn't work out. It didn't work out for Landis. It didn't work out for the only thing I remember about Vampire Brooklyn is John Witherspoon. He was a dock guy, and he was going onto the ship that crashed into the dock, and he kept on saying "ahoy." He's going "ahoy," and then you hear him yell "ahoy, motherfucker." That's the only part I laugh at. John Witherspoon. You know, God bless him. Damn. Might want to give that stuff about 20 minutes. And Jet says life force is greater than species. I might agree with you there. I think I might. I don't know. That's a great debate. Ronnie and Blake. It could be a new series for you guys. You take the same movie, kind of, but you take the female star, and you guys say who's better. Just giving it out there. I won't do it on this channel. And Darren won't allow it on the other one. All right. Let's continue. Oh, I got it going on for like an hour and 15 minutes. Okay. Here we go. Bad Moon at 27%. Stephen King's Thinner at 19%. Bordello of Blood, Tales from the Crypt, 14%. And The Island of Dr. Monroe, or is it Maru, at 23%. And it's so sad seeing these two at The Island of Dr. Monroe, seeing these two on screen on the poster, because they are both no longer with us. I mean, Marlon Brando, passed away a while ago, but Val Kilmer, was in this month. So it's quite sad. But let's go from left to right at your perspective. Bad Moon. I love this movie. It's one of the few DVDs or Blu-rays I will not give up. I love Thor, the German Shepherd, and I love the werewolf in it. And Eric read in his commentary, said all you needed was to show the foot being transformed and him busting out of the shoe. And that's all you needed instead of this crappy CGI, which took away from the movie. And he's absolutely right. But the producers wanted some changes. And all it was CGI, hair here, hair here, hair here, hair here. Face gets a little distorted, and then he turns into the wolf. It's. I don't know. It's and then Stephen King's Thinner at 19%. I could have a fun time with Thinner. So getting back, I think, really quick, I think Bad Moon should be at least in the 50s. Just for the dog, just for Thor. And then Stephen King's Thinner, like I said, could have a fun time. I think it was a great slow burn movie. I think it's a great Stephen King story. I think it has a great cast. I think the ending is actually bittersweet, no pun intended. And I actually think it's if I see Thinner on the Chester knows with Fear Fest on AMC, when they have a block of Stephen King movies, Thinner is one of them, along with Silver Bullet and Carrie and The Shining's in there, and basically his major other movies are in that block, that Stephen King marathon. And I could have a great time with Thinner. 19% is too low. Bordello of Blood, 14%. Not a good movie. Dennis Miller is kind of pathetic in it. Erica is the only one I can actually say was good in this movie. Was Chris Sarandon. You take the girls out of it, you take the bordello out of it, you take the nudity out of it. I don't have kind of a fun time with it, but Jamie says right here, Bordello Blood is fun, too low of a score. I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna give it in the 20s. Compared, Jamie, you have to agree that compared to Demon Knight, Bordello of Blood is going to be lower. I mean, that we can all agree with that, right? So, and then Dr. Monroe, 23%. I don't know. I think I'm going to agree with that too. I think 23% is decent. The makeup effects was fantastic. Marlon Brando was great. Val Kilmer was great, but the lead character, I forgot what his name. I know he's English. Is he English? I don't want to get that wrong. He wasn't, I think, the heartthrob. I think Val Kilmer should have been the main character in this movie. I think it would have been. I think it would have been better that way. God bless them both. Let's see here. What are you guys saying about these movies? Evil Ox says Bad Moon and Thinner are great. Way too low scores. Chester goes, Bad Moon was a great movie. And then you have Jamie Hart says Thinner is super underrated. 19% is criminal. Evil Ox says there are some good practical shots in Bad Moon. The CGI is holding back this gem. One of the best werewolf films for me. Amen. Amen, Evil Alex. The CGI takes you out of it. Other than that, everybody's good except for Muriel Hemingway, which I said yesterday. Having Eric Red yell at her constantly just to get the right reaction. And the only way she got the right reaction for the take, which is where get the fuck off my son. That's the one he was yelling out for. He was yelling at her for nearly 20 minutes to a half hour. And at the last, and she was so frustrated that they said, we finally got it. Fuck you. You're a horrible actress. Get out. You know, there's a reason why your grandfather shot himself. Whenever I get to see Thinner, I think of the Family Guy parody Cutaway. Thicker. That's right. Christine isn't a King movie, but it's based on his novel. That's right. Christine is a John Carpenter movie that's based on the novel. So, yeah. So like Stephen King movies. I love Dr. Moreau. I know it's God's flaws, but I don't care. Yeah, Chris Sarandon is always good at his parts. Bordello is more of a comedy than a horror. They said it was a nightmare to make. Actors were hard to deal with. Was that was Bad Moon, right? Or was it Island Dr. Monroe? Let me know which one, Beach Dad. My brother told me to avoid Bordello of Blood. We had the same taste in most horror. That's right, Pat. Thinner was just for the it's Kari Werner, right? Yeah. And Brando was drunk the whole time, right? That's right. Oh, it's right. That's right. And this was the first movie, because if you watch Superman, he's hiding his rotundus. He's hiding his rotundus around shiny clothing. And he's still walking around fine, and he still looks handsome. And I have heard from my mom and my aunts and my friends' parents that he was such a good-looking guy. Such a good-looking guy, even in the 80s. You know, even when he was, I know it was before the 80s, but when he was doing Godfather, he was such a good-looking, manly guy that he was like a heartthrob. And then when we see him in The Island of Dr. Monroe, he saw how big he was, and he let himself go. And when he sits down at that piano to play for one of his creations, you can hear the bench go, get off. It creaks, and I feel so bad because I feel like half of his legs are wrapped up. I don't know. I feel bad because he is. Most actors will say he is the greatest actor of all time. Of all time. Now, I can have an argument with that. He's good. He's good. But Rocky Marciano is better. No. He's good, but I think there's a lot more, people will say James Cagney, Paul Newman. For our generation, we could say, it's Anthony Hopkins, it's Daniel Day-Lewis. But that's what I don't like about some of our generation and this newer generation, is that we don't go back to, the golden age of movies and look at the originals. And is Brando up there? Sure. Yep. Bracket D says these ratings are shocking. Out of the 4 for 96, I really like Bad Moon and Thinner. None of them are terrible movies. They're not. Not to be this low, especially Bad Moon. Especially Bad Moon. And then Jamie's Heart says Gary Oldman is the GOAT. I put Gary up there anytime, especially his accents. Okay, moving on. 97, The Relic at 38%. I haven't seen that movie, I don't think. No, I don't think I've seen it. Anaconda at 41%. And then I Know What You Did Last Summer at 48%. So I think these are agreeable. Without seeing The Relic, I'm going to have to agree with the critics. Anaconda at 41%. I liked it when I saw it. Now it's kind of boring. The snake effects are actually okay, the practical ones. But I find Jennifer Lopez annoying in anything now. And then hearing a snake make a noise, or any animal, reptile, or amphibian, bird, anything like that, that's not supposed to make any noise for me professionally, seeing them and hearing them making noise bothers the shit out of me. Snakes screaming. As a professional that deals with animals, it bothers me a lot. I mean, it's like hearing the T-Rex at the end of the beginning credits of 33 and a third. Make fun of Jurassic Park where the T-Rex is roaring and it's a chicken sound or a penguin sound. And then I Know What You Did Last Summer is just for me above Scream. Again, going on too much, too long. Even though I do like the killer in it, I just can't. We know who the killer is, which makes a lot more sense. Then I'm not getting into Scream. I'm not. But I think it's I actually think it should stay where it is. So what do you guys think about this one? Let me see here. Jamie Hart says The Relic is pretty good. I think it deserves a higher score. Evil Alex says Relic is a gem. Creature feature should be higher. I should watch this. Love me some Gary Oldman. Never seen a bad performance ever from that guy. That's true. And Jamie Hart says Anaconda is hilarious. Great comedy too. It has Owen Wilson in it, right? And other people in it. Matthew says, love Anaconda. I'm curious to see the Jack Black remake come out. My kid has got me into the Minecraft movie. I never played Minecraft, but the Lava Chicken song, the lava chicken, Steve's Lava Chicken is juicy as heck. Actually, we say heck. We don't say hell. Jamie also said, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Boring. Anaconda was a fun one. Watch it again, though, guys. Watch it again. Because I thought it was fun when it came out, but not so much now. That's just me. Was never into I Know What You Did Last Summer. Not really into teen horror. I know what you mean, but they're all what? The Scary Movie makes fun of it by saying, I know, we'll get adult actors to play us in their 30s. And that's basically what it was, actors in their 30s, playing teenagers. Frank took my kids to see it. I loved it. Oh, the Minecraft movie. Did any of them get hooting and hollering and anything at the chicken scene? The chicken riding? Oh, God. I know what you meant, Blake. I don't think you took your kids to see Anaconda. All right, here we go. Continuing with 97. Event Horizon criminally at 35%. Wishmaster criminally at 25%. And American Werewolf in Paris criminally too high. Okay, let's start with Event Horizon, a great haunted ship goes to hell space movie. It should be definitely be higher. I am so pissed. When Scream Factory announced the 4K special edition of this, and they said deleted scenes, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to get that blood orgy that has been talked about. No. Nope. It's officially been destroyed, and it was the highest amount of negativity on their thread, on their page about this, is that because it was stored in a Transylvanian salt mine. All the cuts that it's been deteriorated, and a lot of people have said that's BS because a lot of people should have the cut anyway. You just don't throw away film. And then, of course, Darren said, yeah, you can just throw away film. These are no different than if you're working on your expense report and have had it around for 5 years, you just rip it up and throw it away. No one knew there was going to be such controversy of doing that. But I think Event Horizon should be higher, maybe in the lower 50s, upper 40s. Wishmaster, I can have fun with, even though I'm finding the Wishmaster, the Djinn, a little bit annoying with his emphasis emphasis of his sentences at the end. Make your wish. You're like, Jesus, enough. And then I think that it should be higher, but maybe in the 30s. Well, I can have fun with it. It's nice seeing Robert and Tony Todd in this movie, and Kane Hodder. So Wes Craven, it goes to show that all horror movie people, they get along, they bring people in, to give them work. And An American Werewolf in Paris, Patooey. I know Barry is defending this movie. There is no defense to this movie. No defense after seeing the first original. After seeing, the first one compared, I saw this in the theater and I was sickened by it. I'm still sickened by it now. This has a 7%, where Graveyard Shift has 0. Explain that. Ugh. Okay. Here we go. Let's see here. Nick says An American Werewolf in Paris was just pure trash. Matthew says Event Horizon is easily 60 to 7%. But Jamie counter argues and says, well, I'll just say that. Counter argues. I shouldn't say argue. I absolutely love American Wolf in Paris. The music rules, and I think it's fun. The music mostly is Bush, right? Yeah. 35 for one of the best sci-fi horrors. Fuck that. Anytime anyone says fuck that, I think of Sam Neill in The Mouth of Madness, where he goes, well, fuck that. Lower Paris and up the other two. Event Horizon is great and so weird. 70% in my eyes. And then also Jamie says Event Horizon is an amazing movie. Wishmaster is fun. Back when Paul Anderson cared and didn't make easy money with his wife. From Jordan, I'll add Werewolf in Paris to my watch list. I just watched American Wolf in London for the first time earlier this week, twice actually. You'll get my review soon. Please. Because I'm always interested in what people think of American Werewolf in Paris. Event Horizon is from Beach Dad. Event Horizon is one of the only movies I ever seen that really gave me bad dreams. Scary as hell. JB goes, I'll defend American Werewolf in Paris. Bring it on. Alex, I love Wishmaster. It says, yes, I'm a huge fan of Bush. Shut up, Jordan. Alex says, the Djinn kills all 3 Jasons, Kane, Freddy, Robert, and Candyman, Tony Todd, in Wishmaster. Yep. Kill 3 Jason. Yeah. Event Horizon is great. I love it. Good sci-fi horror. And Wishmaster is good, though. I give at least a 30% higher. Okay. Yep. I'll agree with you that. And Wishmaster is borderline horror comedy to me. Yep. I think we're actually all in agreement with a lot of these should be higher. And especially for Jamie saying it should be, American Wolf in Paris should be higher. All right. Moving on. Bride of Chucky, 45%. Deep Rising at 36%. Vampires at 44%. Urban Legend at 30%. Okay, let's start again from left to right. Matthew, go get his autograph. Andrew, yep. Go get him. He's been in a lot. He's been in tons. I also think he was in he in Die Hard? I don't know. He was in the Graveyard Shift. That I know. Bride of Chucky at 45%, which I don't think is right. I think it should be in the 50s because it did start the Tiffany era of her being in all of the Chucky movies. Jennifer Tilly, who we all love. I think that should be. I think it should be a little higher, and it actually kept Chucky with him being stitched up Chucky. We don't see Chucky being regular Chucky anymore until Cult or Clash or the TV series of it, but we were so used to being, the Frankenstein stitched up Chucky, and seeing puppet intercourse or doll intercourse is hilarious, and seeing Chucky give the middle finger is fantastic. I know he did it in part 2. No, yeah, he did it in part 2. He gave the middle finger to Kyle. It's hilarious. Darren and I both love Deep Rising. I absolutely love Deep Rising, a great sea monster horror movie. 36% with the late Treat Williams, criminally underrated at 36%. It needs to be at least at 60. Vampires, I watched again recently, and at 44%, I think it deserves to be in the 50s. It is kind of slow in some parts, but James Woods just conquers that movie. He's just great. And Urban Legend at 30%, I'm gonna have to agree with because I don't understand how Rebecca is the killer doing what she does. Again, it's the whole thing about Scream. You can't believe that everybody in Scream is the killer because of their not physical features, physical strengths. You cannot dictate how they can lift somebody off the ground or push somebody up into a wall. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's see what you guys are talking about. These movies. Let me go back up. Jamie says all these movies deserve a higher score. Vampires should be higher from Nick. Evil Alex says I need to rewatch Urban Legend. The others should be higher. Alex C says Vampires was awesome. Terry Silva was an excellent vampire, captured the essence perfectly. Rando, Bride of Chucky and Urban Legend were both very good. Deep Rising from Evil Alex says is another gem that's holding back by the CGI. Jordan Decker says, "Oh, Vampires was very fun. Only watched that for the first time within the last year, and really enjoyed it. Gotta love some James Woods." Jamie says, "I love Vampires. Cheryl Lee is so good at that." Matthew Jensen says, "I personally love Bride of Chucky. Definitely higher, 50%. It was the first time I seen Chucky. Loved it. Made me go back and watch the OG when I was younger." Alex says, "James Woods is such a dick in every role he does. It's hilarious." Jennifer Tilly had her best role in Drive His Comedy, Let It Ride. You got to see her in that, Frank. I think I'll try to see her. There's a movie I've seen her in with Michael Marsden, where he takes hostage of her, but then and she falls in love with him, something like that. Vampires is a great, dumb, Wild West vampire mixed fun. Deep Rising too low, Vampires too low. I just enjoy Urban Legend. Let It Ride, one of my faves. I gotta watch Let It Ride. Shirley is also an underrated hottie. I love Bry, such a fun time, and as a Chucky fan, it's probably my third favorite in the franchise and deserves to be around 65%. And then Jordan Decker says, "I randomly ran into James Woods at work one time. Didn't Didn't talk to him though. Huh. He's actually he's still recognizable. You know, that's the part I was talking about, Pat. You're right. The sex scene in Bride Chucky is hilarious. You know, I'm anatomically correct, right? So that means he was more human in part 3. I mean, in part 4, Bride of Chucky, than he has been in ever because she got pregnant. I don't understand that. Yep, Deep Rising and Vampires movies too, 20% higher. I like Urban Legend, but the opening scene is far the best part of the movie. Yep. Okay, here we go. 3 more slides to go, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting there. Okay, then a year later, we get I Still Know What You Did Last Summer at 7%. So is this the lowest? This ties with American Werewolf in Paris. Psycho, the reimagining or remake with Vince Vaughn at 41% and Species 2 at 9%. So I Still Know What You Did Last Summer at 7%. I agree with because the joke and the story is now over with. Of course, we knew the fisherman or the hook killer was coming back. And let's talk about Psycho, the remake, for a moment. There's a way to do remakes or retellings or reimaginings of a Hitchcock movie, just like how Disturbia took away from Rear Window. When it comes to Psycho, it's one of those movies that should never be touched. And Gus Van Sant said famously, he did it so no one else would. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. It's like going into a house and seeing all the electrical appliances and outlets ready to spark and just saying, I lit the match and burned the place down because you know what? The house needed to be redone anyway. No, stop this. This is ridiculous. I don't think it's even a good movie. It's a shot for shot, line for line take of the movie, of the original best. And if you want to think about it, besides Peeping Tom, the start of the slasher genre for us. This is criminally at 41%. Too high. It needs to be at a 0. And then Species 2, I think okay at 9% because it's really not her in it. It's the guy. It's the astronaut. And then they have some kind of alien sex at the end. Okay, let's leave what you guys were saying about this. Let me go back up here. I just don't care about any of these movies. Fair scores. They're all horrible. Psycho remake is too high. I still know should be higher in my eyes. Sorry, no, nothing to be sorry about. You like it, you like it. No judgment here. There should be any judgment about what you like and what you don't like, unless you're one of those people that like ham and pineapple together on pizza. 41 is a bit high, like the people who like that movie. 41 for Psycho is awful. And then Randall goes, "Holy shit, 7%? I still know. I like it though. I switched to a Psycho remake off. Never touch it like an Ernest movie. Bull." I think it's blasphemy that my father-in-law prefers the Psycho remake over the OG and says it's better. Why, Matthew? Because it's in color? Please. One of the laziest remakes ever. Evil Alex, you and I and everybody else in here who hate this movie, hate the remake, can make a whole episode about this. I think this might be my next defending bad movies. It might be Psycho. It might be this Psycho. I don't know how I'm going to do it. My Chucky Jordy says, I found Species 2 entertaining, so should be a bit higher in my eyes. Jordan Decker says really quick, alien sex sells. I know. What can you say? They had Alex C. The astronaut was running through them in species too. And my Chucky Jordy says, sorry, I'm a ham and pineapple girl. Well, we can't go out and have pizza. You and everybody else. Sorry. We all get into a group again. I'm gonna have to say, I'm gonna sit over there. No offense. When you're done, I'll come back over. We'll have tiramisu. JB Hart says 41% is too high. I hate the Psycho remake. 98. Not a fan of any of these movies. However, these scores are terrible even for bad movies. Okay, Frankie. Okay, you got to say that the Psycho remake, at least a Psycho remake, is too high. At least. If you ever seen these three movies again, I'm okay with it. If you never seen them, yep. Sorry. You don't have to be sorry. Sorry. The Psycho remake seems a fair score. Watch my I'm going to have a further episode. I'm going to do it. I think I am defending the Psycho remake. Let's see how it does. It may not get any views, but I didn't make this channel to talk about to get views. I didn't make this channel to have you guys either subscribe or like. It's appreciated, but that's not what it's about. It's about forming an opinion and getting you guys together to talk about stuff. PCAT says, with the Psycho remake, to paraphrase Monty Python, I fought it in its general direction. I think it's because he doesn't like Hitchcock for Matthew. I don't know. I thought everybody does. And then Pat, Psycho remake is dog shit. Do something different. Make Psycho, but don't do it shot for shot. Change it to where it is Mother. Could you imagine? But then people would say, that's blasphemous. It's Norman. But could you imagine if it really was Mother at the end? Her old crippled body, getting up to kill. All right. Let's continue. Got two more slides. We're getting to a quarter. Yeah, going to quarter to 5. All right. 1999. Schwarzenegger, End of Days, 11%. House on Haunted Hill at 31%. The Haunting, 17%. And Bats at 17%. Here we go. Jordan Decker. Do we have any mods in here? No, I don't need any mods. Unless it gets too political or too unethical, for people calling people other names and everything like that. I think people should voice their opinion. End of Days I can have fun with at 11%. I think it's criminally low. That would be awesome, Evil Alex. That would be awesome. How about the mother pretending to be Norman? And then Blake says mom is the killer and the son is dead. Yep. Then in the sequel, the son kills and gets a hockey. I'll delete that really quick. JB says, I freaking love End of Days. What the fuck? Arnie is awesome in that. You're a fucking choir boy compared to me. Alex C., I love the End of Days. So underrated. The premise sounds ridiculous, but the movie is deeper than people give it credit for. I'm putting it in the 50s. I love the End of Days. I have to admit, I enjoyed House on Haunted Hill for Jordan Decker, at least back in the 1990s. Not sure if it would work. Not sure if would nowadays. Not sure if I would nowadays. I'm the original. I like the OG from 1954. The House on Haunted Hill here. Jeffrey Combs in it as being a ghost is actually pretty good. 31%, I think, is a little too high. The Haunting, I've seen the original. The Haunting is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. But my Chucky Joy says End of Days is great, far too low. Beach Dad says House and Haunting should be a little higher. I agree at least with you with the Haunting. Bats holds a special place in my heart because it's one of the first movies I ever ordered on pay-per-view when it first left the theaters. How did you like it? Besides, I remember the song, Bats, Bats, Bats are gonna get you. Bats, Bats, Bats. And Lou Diamond Phillips in it. I really enjoyed the House on Haunted Hill remake. Jeffrey Rush was delightful. I love Jeffrey Rush. Love End of Days. Arnold punching the devil out the window. Fuck you. I enjoy House on Haunted Hill 2. Low but bothered about other two. Yeah, the other two. Whoever played the devil in End of Days was good. That was Gabriel Brine? Gabriel, yeah. He was in Stigmata. For me, how I rate movies generally, anything that would be getting around 40% and lower is a piece of shit and not worth watching. I like both House on Haunted Hill and The Haunting. All right, so I think we're all kind of like mixed up here a little bit. It seems like the House on Haunted Hill and The Haunting, people are kind of having mixed feelings about that. Nobody has really mentioned anything about Bats. I think Bats is one of those is probably, I think we're all in agreement that Bats is kind of low, except for, if you have a special place in it. But I think we're all in agreement that End of Days is really, 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 really too low. It needs to be in the 50s. And for my wrestling friends out there, you remember when Arnold was promoting this movie, he actually punched out Triple H, and started punching him on the ground and went into the ring, and everybody was, clapping for Arnold Schwarzenegger and told Vince McMahon he's created an empire and going, yeah, you created an empire. If you guys remember that, let me know. Put a thumbs up. All right, here we go. Craig. Hey, Craig, what's going on? Says Psycho Remake was the worst pointless waste of celluloid ever. Blake remembers it. He did such a crappy fake block you ever seen, because Triple H actually came in pretty slow, and Arnie, showing his age, did the block and punched him, and then he was on the ground, and the camera angle moved, so you really can't see him too much. Not punching Triple H, so yeah, you just sit there, and he started pounding on him, and yeah, he wasn't good enough to dodge the way out of an egg. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. Okay, last slide. Here we go. Finishing 1999, Lake Placid at 47%, Stigmata at 22%, and then Idle Hands at 18%. Okay. So Lake Placid, I think, deserves to be in the 60s. I enjoy it. I think I actually enjoyed the alligator coming out and taking the bear. I think Bill Pullman. I also think Brendan Gleeson, Oliver Pratt, and what's her name? Bridget Fonda. Yeah, Bridget Fonda. I think this movie is more character driven, and let's not forget the late great Betty White in this. This is the first time I ever saw Betty White or heard Betty White swearing, and I laughed. She stole this movie in Lake Placid. I think it's great. It deserves to be higher, at least in the 50s and 60s. Stigmata at 22%. Slow burn. I'm kind of think it should be in the 40s. And Idle Hands, I don't like, what's his name? Devin Sawa. I don't like him. I personally don't like him. I think he comes off as a dick. I see him at conventions all the time, and I think he just comes off as a dick. I think he comes off of having a big chip on his shoulder, and I really dislike him in anything he did with the Chucky series because it was the same character. He was playing a different person all the time in the series, and I just can't stand him. I don't even like him in Eminem music videos. I don't like him. I didn't like him, and he takes me out of every movie. Even in Casper, I didn't like him in. Maybe that's another video I'll do. Actor and actresses I won't pay to see part 2, because there are a lot of them. And let me get to. Let's see here. Let me go back up to the top here. Let's see. Jordan Decker says, I remember him punching Triple H. Yeah, Hunter's punch was pretty weak, and the block was even weaker. I know the one scene Frank loved in Idle Hands. Please. Lake Placid is, I feel, is too low. It's a great film. All deserve higher scores. Lake Placid rules. Betty White with a potty mouth. Amazing. Lake Placid was fun. It blurred the lines between comedy and seriousness, so at times I didn't know how to take the movie. Idle Hands, give that bitch a 95%. Just for Betty White, it needs to be more. Idle Hands is way too low. It's a fun movie. Idle Hands is a guilty pleasure for me. Lake Placid is fun. The tagline for Idle Hands is the same tagline for my memoir. The touching story of a boy and his right hand. Stigmata is far too low. I put Stigmata at 45%. I like all three. Too low. Stigmata was very grungy for me. I remember loving the feel of that movie. Stigmata should be around 45%. From Pat. Idle Hands is a fair score. So here's someone that says Idle Hands is really not too good from Jamie. Blake says he sucks in Little Giants too. Got hurt. Then as soon as the team started winning again, all of a sudden he's fine. It's like Mighty Ducks, right? The kid from what was the name of the team? Was it the Hawks? No, not the Ducks, but the team that kid Adam was on, and then they rearranged the lines and the divisions, and the one kid Adam had to switch over to the Ducks. What was that name of that team? Emilio Estevez's team when he was a kid. What was the name of that team? That's basically what it was. It was just, he came over and changed everything. Jordan Decker said he probably is a dick, but you got to separate the art from the artist. Jake Roberts. Bullshit. That was real, Jordan. That what he said to my mother was not being in character. He did not want to be there, but he was probably too coked up to fucking even care. Fuck him. I love seeing what was it? Was it Wrestling Con that's happening this weekend? Where was he was at? He was at CE2E or something like that. There was nobody in line for him. He deserves it. Smile all you want, you fucking dick. Totally forgot he was in Casper. Idle Hands, I agree with. Hawks. Thanks. I knew it was Hawks. Wasn't it Black Hawks? Was it the Hawks? Shit. The best thing about Idle Hands is Seth Green picking up the electric knife and saying, "Look at me, I'm Leatherface." The animatronic for Lake Placid was really good. Yeah, I think it was the Blackhawks. I don't know. At the end of that, who cares? So and then Blake says, "I need this story now. What did the snake say to your mother?" Okay, I'll go through it again. We went to a expo. It had this was in the early 90s, I would say around 92 or so. And don't turn this into, what you're doing with Darren and the maid, Blake. So, hey, Tiona, what's going on? So what happened? And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So those are the low scores for Rotten Tomatoes. Some of them we agree should be higher. Some of them should stay where it is. And some of them should be lower. But all right, real quick about Jake the Snake. So, as I say, we're at an expo and all these wrestlers are there. We were going to be live on TV. I remember it was my two uncles, my mom, my brother, and me, maybe three uncles. And we were in line, and they showed us on camera. Do you remember when they had Saturday morning wrestling on your local Fox station? Saturday morning wrestling they had, and it was basically no-namers. It was like the Brooklyn Brawler versus, Johnny Jumping Flash or something like that. And because they saved everything for Monday. Monday was on USA Networks, and it wasn't Raw is War. It was just Monday Night Wrestling. You're good, Jordan. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We went up in line, and I was just checking something to make sure everything was cool. I went up. Jake the Snake was on a podium being interviewed by Sean Mooney. And he was talking about his upcoming match with somebody. And he was talking out into the crowd, thinking there was a camera there, of course, because that's what they are taught to do. If nobody's, if there's no camera there, just talk out into a crowd. And Sean Mooney, I think, said, you know what? I think Jake would like to stay and sign some autographs. And he turned around and goes, no, I don't want to do that. Kind of like John Carpenter-ish, like, no, I don't want to do that. No. And everyone's clapping. And he's in these zebra pants and this tank top on. And he's got the glasses on. He's probably all, drugged up and coked up and had a banger overnight. And he was and he went to his table. We were online. We walked over, and my mother was carrying my little brother, and she was saying, "How you doing, Jake?" And I'm sitting there next to her. She's yay high than me, and I was little, or I was basically just going like this to the table. And she goes, he says, "Well," she started to try to make a little conversation with him. And then he says, "Here's your autograph. Now you could take those two things away and get out of here." Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but it was really mean and really mean-spirited. And he wasn't a heel. He was supposed to be a babyface. And then I found out after I told that story, he was at a local store signing autographs, and I was going to go there and talk about it with him. But I said, I'm not even going to waste my time to tell him what an asshole he was, and then probably still is. Yeah, thank you, Alex. And thank you, Chester. It was called WWF Superstars on Saturday. Yeah. So, yeah, that was my interaction and me hating Jake the Snake. As I picked, I had to take it down because YouTube and WWE are so picky about what stuff you can show on YouTube, copyright and everything like that. He was my most hated wrestler of all time, just because the interaction I had. Don't meet your heroes, but he never was a hero for me anyway. But just my first experience meeting a wrestler of that caliber, it's Jake the Snake. He was very rude to my mother and calling me and my brother, things and brats. You can take those. Okay, here's your autograph. You can take those little brats out of here with you. And I was just like, you don't say that, because you know what? Last time we weren't the first or last people in line. There was plenty of other families that were there coming up, and that's how you were with people. Fuck you. Fuck you. And Diamond Dallas Page, you're a saint for rescuing this man. You deserve to be somewhere up on a made out of stone, like the Michelangelo statue of David, like this, and knowing that you saved this piece of shit and turned his life around. And he won't remember half the shit he fucking did early in his life. But you know what? It's one of those things that I will never forget. I will never forget. And you're right, Tiona. Bless you. What an asshole. And I can't forgive him. I can't. I know Frank. You're like, Frank, just God. He was drugged and coked up and drunk half the time. Give him a give him give him a pass on this. He only said something. No, no, it's first impressions. God damn it, first impressions. That you don't. It's like bullies in school. There were certain parts where I was picked on, but I got my revenge later as I got older and as I got bigger. And in high school, I was one of the first people to actually have facial hair, and actually took some girlfriends away because I was able to drive as well. But there was one kid I remember was relentless to me and my brother growing up, and I put him in the same category with Shake the Snake because I do make it personal at sometimes. There's no need to be that way, and I know some people think this about me too, and I don't give a shit. But I'm not this rude to people. Um, I told one, I met this person at a high school reunion. Everybody was having a fun time. We were all like, "Oh, congratulations on your family! Congratulations on your new position! Congratulations on everything you did in the future." We were all such a great class together, and everybody was like, "Oh, you look good. You look great. Oh, your family's beautiful. You look good. You haven't aged a bit." And then I saw this one guy who came up to me and thought we were friends, and I said, "You know what? Let me hold. Is that who'd you bring? Is that your wife? Oh, that's your wife. Oh, nice to meet you. I just want to let you know that your husband." And I'm smiling, and she thought she was holding on to his arm, and he was so she was going to say something. She thought I was going to say something so nice to him about him. I said he was a piece of shit to me and my brother, and he was a bully throughout all elementary school, and I have no love lost for him. And then afterwards I said, "But try the punch. It's actually really good." And I walked away. His face dropped like Roy Schreider did, and seeing Bruce the Shark for the first time, and I could see her let go of his arm. And I was just like, they were just like, and who was I with? I was with a couple buddies. We all went together, and because we met up and formed our clique that we did in high school, and I felt good. I felt really good. Um, so that's how I put Jake the Snake with him. If you ever meet somebody again, the worst that did something to you really bad, and they're with somebody, and you see them again, and you say hello, and if they remember you, if they don't, remind them. Just tell either their spouse or their kids that they were either a bully or the biggest piece of shit in school, and you'll just ruin the rest of their day and maybe the rest of their life because they'll bring it up now and then. Their family member will. So yeah. So anytime now I tell if my kids come up to me and said this kid is picking on me, calling me, well, my hair's too blonde, or, they don't want to be my friend. I said, it doesn't matter if they want to be your friend or not. You guys are going through life, at 9 and 5, wait till high school. Then it gets really bad. Uh, I, I tell them, if you ever see a kid get picked on, be their friend. If you ever get picked on, tell somebody of authority. Like it's now pretty bad because if you get bullied, they actually are supposed to take certain steps in it. All those teachers out there, if you guys know, you in Jersey, you have to. Our anti-bully laws are very strong. So if your kid experiences something like that, it actually goes on the school to stop it. And if the school doesn't stop it, they're in big, big trouble here in Jersey. And if that doesn't work, I told my kids, I give you every permission to knock their clock out. And then the teachers and the school administration and I will handle it. Enough is enough. It's then, fuck you, Jake the Snake. It brought this on bad memories of school and high school. As my wife says, I love torturing people. People who deserve it, though. And Jake the Snake does absolutely deserve it. He doesn't deserve a redemption. He doesn't. And I hope this video gets back to you because you are a piece of shit. Treating my mother and me and my brother like we're some kind of failed experiments. And that's the way I took it. And I think I had one of those rubber Jake the Snake dolls. You guys remember those? The ones that always just did this pose from the early 80s. I think I melted mine when I got home. That's right, Tiona. No tolerance law. It's a big lawsuit if schools do nothing. And it should be. Because when your kids are not in front of you, and it's harder to protect your kids now, especially with social media. But when my kids go to school or if they go to aftercare, I am relying on those adults to protect the most precious things I have in life, to protect my lineage, to protect the evidence that my family was here on Earth, to continue, our DNA. And that's what it is, to continue and to tell the story of our lives. They're the most precious things in our world. This stuff behind me is nothing. This stuff, nothing. I could care less. I really could. And I think, when it comes to my kids, and I think for a lot of us, if it comes to our kids or our loved ones, it's hands off. Stop it. Who brought up this? Who brought this up? Jake the Snake. Damn you. Jake the Maggot Roberts for Frankie D. It's like that's what she said. Said a big kid bullied a small one time, and the kid that was bigger than the bully told him to leave the other kids alone. It should be that way. I'm an easy target, and I make myself an easy target sometimes, but I can laugh it off. But don't piss me off. Don't. That's it. We're going to end on that note. We're going to try to end on a happy note. But thank you, guys. We've been here for 2 hours. Jordan, stop it. Don't worry about it. It's actually I could actually laugh about it now, and I actually like telling the story sometimes because it's good therapy. It's good therapy to talk about it. And it's good to hear people say when I tell a story and it's meaningful that I don't get, oh yeah. It's good. We all have stories like that. That's what makes us who we are. So all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. I hope this was fun. Darren will be on Saturday. He'll be live. Go check him out. I think he's going to be on around 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, 3:30 his time. And then we got Friday is dropping for Good Friday and for the Easter weekend. The best and worst of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That was fun. You're going to want to check that out. All right. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I'm going to go out and deal with my kids. So I hope if I don't see you guys or we don't talk, I hope you have a great Good Friday. And I hope you have a lovely Easter. Enjoy the Easter baskets. Enjoy the big chocolate bunnies. Enjoy your eggs. And enjoy each other. All right. Take care, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye.